The sun climbs over the Rockies, painting the Hudson foothills in hues of gold and rose. A peaceful quiet settles over the Heartland Ranch, the kind that often precedes life-altering events. Horses nicker softly in the pasture, their shapes dark against the brightening fields. Inside the familiar barn, Amy Fleming moves with a practiced grace, grooming Spartan, her touch gentle, familiar. Yet her eyes hold a distant look, a quiet sorrow that time hasn't fully erased. The rhythm of the brush is steady, a comforting constant in a life that felt the sharp sting of loss. It's a morning like countless others, serene, almost deceptively normal. Then a sound breaks the stillness, the crunch of boots on the gravel path outside the barn. Slow, hesitant steps carrying an unfamiliar weight, yet hauntingly familiar. The silhouette darkens the barn doorway, tall and broad-shouldered, framed against the morning light. Amy doesn't look up immediately, lost in her routine. But the air shifts, charged with an energy unseen but deeply felt. She stills the brush hovering over Spartan's coat. Slowly, she turns. He stands there. Older, lines etched around his eyes telling tales of hardship, but unmistakably him, Ty Borden. Amy's breath hitches, a gasp stolen by disbelief. The world seems to tilt, the familiar barn spinning slightly. Is this a memory? A cruel trick of the light? But the way he looks at her, the raw emotion swimming in his eyes, it's real. His name is a choked whisper on her lips, Ty. He offers a small, heart-wrenching nod, his own voice thick with unshed tears. Amy, it's me. Time shatters. The carefully constructed walls around her heart crumble in an instant. She doesn't walk. She flies across the barn floor, crashing into his arms with a force born of years of pent-up grief and longing. Sobs rack her body as she clings to him, anchoring herself to the impossible reality of his presence. I thought you were gone, she cries, her words muffled against his jacket. He holds her just as tightly, burying his face in her hair, his own shoulders shaking. I never left you, Amy. Not really. I tried so hard to get back. In that embrace, under the dusty barn rafters, years of aching silence begin to dissolve, replaced by the overwhelming miracle of reunion. From the corner, a small, hesitant voice pipes up. Mommy? Lindy stands near the stall door, her favorite picture book clutched in her small hands, her eyes wide with childish curiosity as she stares at the tearful embrace. Amy pulls back slightly, wiping her eyes, her gaze shifting to her daughter. Kneeling, she gently pulls Lindy closer, her voice trembling but warm. Sweetheart, she begins, searching for the right words. This is your daddy. This is Ty. Ian. Lindy tilts her head, studying the stranger with the kind eyes her mother is holding so tightly. She doesn't remember him, knows him only from photographs and stories whispered like legends. Ty kneels too, his gaze meeting his daughter's, his heart aching with the lost years. Hi, Lindy, he says softly, his voice rough with emotion. I've dreamt of this moment. I've missed you more than words can say. Lindy looks from Ty to Amy, then back to Ty. There's no fear, only a quiet understanding dawning in her young eyes. Hesitantly, she reaches out a small hand, touching his cheek. Then, wordlessly, she steps forward and wraps her tiny arms around his neck in a trusting hug. Ty closes his eyes, holding his daughter for the first time, a missing piece of his soul clicking back into place. A family broken by tragedy begins the fragile process of mending. Just then, Jack Bartlett walks towards the barn, his familiar steady gait slowing as he hears the uncharacteristic sounds of crying from within. He's seen his share of hardship, weathered storms, both literal and metaphorical. He's buried friends, lost family, but losing Ty, that was a blow that struck deeper than any other. Ty wasn't just Amy's husband. He was the son Jack never had, the troubled boy he'd guided into manhood, the quiet presence that had become integral to the rhythm of Heartland. The official story of Ty's death never sat right with Jack, a gut feeling, a rancher's intuition he couldn't shake. But when he'd buried beneath layers of acceptance and grief, he braces himself, expecting perhaps an injured animal or Amy lost in a wave of sorrow. But as he steps through the doorway, his eyes land on the impossible sight, Ty holding Amy and Lindy. Jack freezes, his weathered face paling, his ever-present hat seeming heavy in his hand. Ty, the name escapes him, rough, disbelieving. Ty meets his gaze, a silent apology and years of unspoken words passing between them. Jack, Ty manages, his voice thick. For a long moment, Jack doesn't move, his mind struggling to reconcile the ghost before him with the man he mourned. The stoic rancher, the pillar of the family, feels his composure crack. Tears well in his eyes, not of sadness, but of an overwhelming, gut-wrenching relief that steals his breath. Reuben. He takes a step forward, then another, his boots heavy on the barn floor. He stops directly in front of Ty, studying his face, the years of hardship visible, but the spirit unbroken. Jack's jaw works, fighting back the tide of emotion. "You stubborn fool," he finally rasps, his voice choked but laced with fierce affection. "Knew you weren't the type to go down easy." Then, dropping all pretense, Jack pulls Ty into a rough, powerful hug, slapping his back firmly, a gesture filled with years of mentorship, unspoken love, and the profound relief of a father welcoming a lost son home. "Good to have you back, son," Jack murmurs, his voice thick with tears he refuses to fully shed. Damn good. The missing piece of Jack's own heart slots back into place, the ache he carried finally easing. The truth of Ty's absence unfolds later, a story woven with danger and sacrifice. After the shooting incident years ago, Ty's recovery was complicated not just medically, but by the threat that still lingered. He had inadvertently uncovered a dangerous international poaching ring, and powerful people wanted him silenced permanently. Government agents intervened, recognizing the imminent danger not only to Ty, but to Amy and Lindy. The only way to ensure their safety was for Ty Borden to vanish. His death was meticulously staged, his existence wiped clean, and he was placed into the witness protection program, severed from everyone he loved. For years, he lived under an assumed identity, geographically distant, emotionally isolated, carrying the weight of his secret. His silence wasn't abandonment, it was protection. Every day away was agony, fueled only by the hope of eventual reunion, sustained by faded photographs and the memory of Amy's smile and Lindy's potential. He chose their safety over his own happiness, a sacrifice made out of a love that ran deeper than circumstance. Now, with the criminal network dismantled and the threat neutralized, the path back to Heartland, back to his life, was finally clear. News travels fast. Lou, immersed in mayoral duties and the organized chaos of her life, answers her phone to Jack's trembling voice. "You need to come home. It's Ty. He's back." Lou grips the phone, her knuckles white. A disbelieving laugh escapes her, sharp and humorless. "Jack, that's not possible." "Stop it." But Jack's quiet insistence cuts through her denial. "It's true, Lou. He's here." Lou drops the phone, her carefully ordered world dissolving into static. Keys, purse, car, she moves on autopilot, her mind a whirlwind of shock, confusion, and a fragile, terrifying hope. The drive to Heartland is a blur. Pulling into the driveway, she sees him, standing near the porch, talking quietly with Amy, Lindy holding his hand. Lou stumbles out of the car, legs weak, breath caught in her throat. It's him. The brother-in-law she loved, mourned, raged at for leaving. "Ty," she breathes, the sound barely audible. He turns, his eyes finding hers, filled with apology and warmth. Lou doesn't hesitate. She runs, closing the distance, throwing her arms around him in a hug that's part relief, part accusation, part pure, unadulterated joy. Tears stream down her face, washing away years of strained composure. "How could you?" she sobs, hitting his chest lightly. "We thought, oh, Ty." He holds her tight, letting her vent the years of pain, whispering apologies she barely hears through the storm of her own emotions. Georgie is overseas, competing, living the dream Ty had always encouraged her to chase. When the call comes from Lou, denial is her first instinct. A cruel joke, a misunderstanding. But the tremor in Lou's voice convinces her otherwise. She books the first flight back, her mind a torrent of memories. Ty teaching her to trust horses, pushing her to be better, seeing the potential beneath her foster kid bravado. He wasn't just family. He was her anchor, her first real believer. Losing him felt like losing her North Star. Stepping back onto Heartland soil feels surreal. And then she sees him leaning against the paddock fence, watching the horses just like he used to. Her bag drops, her breath catches. "Georgie," he calls out, his voice older, quieter, but undeniably his. She runs. All the training, the discipline vanishes, replaced by the desperate need to reach him. She slams into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably, clinging to him like a lifeline. "I missed you so much," she cries, the words torn from her soul. It wasn't the same. Nothing was. Ty holds her securely, his own eyes wet. "I followed everything, Georgie," he murmurs, his voice thick with pride. "Every competition. I knew you could do it." Never doubted you. Later, under the stars, she confesses, you were more than just Amy's husband, Ty. You were like the big brother I never had. Losing you, it broke me. His return feels like finding a piece of herself she thought was gone forever, ever. Tim Fleming arrives last, summoned by a curt call from Jack. Tim wears his emotions like ill-fitting armor, grief often masked by gruffness and anger. Ty's death hit him hard, the loss of the man his daughter loved. The man who had earned his grudging respect, coupled with the guilt of not being able to protect his family. He pulls up, engine cutting out, and sees Ty standing with Amy by the house. Tim storms out of his truck, his face a thundercloud. What in God's name is going on here? He bellows, his voice tight with a volatile mix of disbelief and fury. Tim, Ty says simply, turning to face him, calm but wary. Tim stalks forward. Don't Tim me. You died. We buried an empty casket because of you. Amy went through hell. Amy steps between them, a hand on Ty's arm, but Tim's focus is solely on the man he thought was gone. Ty stands his ground, letting Tim vent, understanding the layers of pain beneath the anger. I know, Tim, Ty says, his voice low but firm. There was no choice. It was the only way to keep them safe. If I could have told you, if I could have reached out, he explains the witness protection, the danger, the forced silence. Tim listens, his rigid posture slowly softening, the anger draining away, replaced by a complex brew of understanding and relief. He scrubs a hand over his face, then steps forward, pulling Ty into an awkward, uncharacteristically fierce hug. You damn idiot, Tim mutters, his voice rough with emotion. Welcome home. Later, as twilight paints the sky, Amy and Ty find themselves alone on the porch swing, the familiar creak a counterpoint to the heavy silence between them. The initial shock has subsided, leaving behind a landscape of complex emotions. I don't know how to do this, Ty, Amy whispers, staring out at the fields, unable to meet his eyes. Years. I learned to live without you. I built a life on the fact that you were gone. Ty reaches for her hand, his touch hesitant. Amy, look at me, he pleads softly. She turns, tears glistening. Every day was a fight, he continues, his voice thick with the agony of his hidden life. Every single day I wanted to come home. Being away from you, from Lindy, it was a different kind of death. It told me contact would put you in the crosshairs. I couldn't risk that. Staying away was the hardest thing I've ever done. Amy's anger flares, mixed with pain. Hardest for you? What about me? Raising our daughter alone, believing you were dead, blaming myself? I know, he says, his own guilt palpable. Nothing I say can fix that. I missed everything. Her first steps, her first word, I carry that failure with me. All I have is this photo. He pulls out a worn, creased picture of her and Lindy. So what happens now? Amy asks, her voice trembling. You're back, but everything's different. I'm different. I'm so angry, but I'm also relieved you're here. I don't know what to feel. Ty meets her gaze, his own fear mirroring hers. I'm scared too, Amy. I don't expect you to forget. I don't expect us to just pick up where we left off, but I'm here. I want to be a father to Lindy. I want to try, if you'll let me. A tear escapes, tracing a path through the dust on Amy's cheek. I never stopped loving you, she admits, the confession raw and painful. Even when I hated you for leaving, I loved you. He takes her hand again, intertwining their fingers. One step at a time, he offers a fragile hope in his eyes. Like we always did, Amy nods, a watery smile touching her lips. One step at a time, here, at Heartland. The ranch, their sanctuary, holds the promise of healing, a testament to love's enduring power to find its way back, even from the impossible.